All right, so today we are going to talk about platform migrations. We've been fortunate enough to be involved in a very, very large number of migrations over the past years. It's kind of something that we do 5, 10 a year, every year, all the time. You know, back in the days, it was the migrations from bare metal to virtualized. Now we're seeing a lot more migrations from virtualized to cloud. And each one comes with its own challenges. Last year, those saw me speak, or you can get the presentations online. We did a bunch of benchmarking comparisons of bare metal to virtualized to cloud resources. But today I really want to talk about the actual process of migrating and all the things that, you know, have gotten to us over the years. So I'm just curious, who here is in the process of doing some major migration? From where to where?
AIX to Linux.
Oh, yeah. AIX to Linux. There's a lot of that going around, too. Yeah, for sure. Anybody else going through a big migration? Good. So it's fun. Other than the dump and load, the rest is pretty easy for that. So that's pretty good. So glad to hear it. As usual in my presentations, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you want to share something with the room, please don't hesitate to interrupt me to share with everybody here. It's always fun to hear what other people are doing also in their production environments. All right, so you guys know about Whitestar. We've been around for 30 years now, and myself also been around for almost 30 years, since 1994. Never been a programmer, always been one of these techie, geeky kind of guys doing all the back-end stuff. And now I'm specifically not allowed to program. All right, so what's the agenda today? I want to talk about first where you are now. And I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're planning these kinds of migrations is they jump 4 steps ahead in the project before doing step 1, which is to figure out what exactly are you migrating right now, right? So do that inventory. And then where do you want to go, or where do you need to go? So you might be saying, I need to go to Linux, but is it Red Hat? Is it Ubuntu? Is it Amazon Linux? Is it on Hyper-V? Is it on VMware ESXi? Is it on Azure? Is it on AWS, Rackspace, whatever it is that you guys are doing? So you have to make all of those decisions too. And some of them are not your decisions, which sucks, right? You might really, really want to go to AWS, but you guys are a Microsoft Technology Certified Gold Platinum partner, which means you got to go to Azure, and that's just life, right? You got to deal with the fact that you need to go to Azure. So we'll do there. And then how do we get there? That's probably the most important part. Let's really map out everything. If any of you have ever worked with me, you'll know that I am a big documenter. I document every step along the way. And you'll see throughout my slides, and you've seen me in the past, I always say go live is not the time to think. Go live is the time to execute, right? There's going to be already enough curveballs at go live that are going to engage your brain. You're 12 hours in, you're tired, you're hepped up on caffeine and Red Bull and whatever else you guys, need to keep you going. It's not the time to say, oh, should I do a change mod 777 on this file? You should have figured that out way, way beforehand, right? So I'll talk about that. And then the actual go live, which is almost underwhelming, right? It's like, it should be underwhelming. It never is. There's always some curveball, but it should be the easiest part. And then at the end, I'll take some questions, and then depending how time goes, I've got kind of my top 10 hard lessons that we've learned the hard way doing these kinds of migrations. So hopefully that'll save you guys a little bit of grief when you're doing your migrations. So let's get started. Use a risk-based approach. I always say that first, right? My wife works in pharma, and she works in compliance, and they always do it, and I learned this from her. Use a risk-based approach. If you're a 9-to-5 shop, Monday to Friday, and your database is 1 or 2 gigabytes, well, a lot of this stuff is not a big deal because you can fail 42 times over the weekend and still start over again and still be ready at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, right? So don't hire me to benchmark your dump and load of your 1 gigabyte database. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be, okay, it's done. Thank you very much, right? So, but we have clients who have multi-terabyte databases, or, like Roger, they'll have 40, 80, 100 databases, much more complex projects. Everything has to be synchronized, which means you're front-loading a lot more effort, a lot more testing before. But most of all, really, inventory, what you're doing, and I'll talk about that. So start with your infrastructure. So today, what do you have? What's your hardware? What are your operating systems? What's your version of OpenEdge that you're running? Where's your application code? And interfaces is probably the most important one here. Where are you interfacing with external systems? And I'll tell you 99.9% of the time, where you get caught in your migrations are some external interfaces. Somewhere you need to talk to someone else, and either you never inventoried it because the guy who knew about that, quit 11 years ago and it's just been running for all that time, or you didn't test it adequately. So when you went live, it's the interfaces that go whoop, and then they just don't work anymore, right? So watch out for that. And then we'll talk about, of course, databases, and then any third-party non-OpenEdge stuff. Do you have a DLL? Are you using Crystal Reports? Did you install some PDF include-like tools to generate PDFs and email those out? You have them on AIX. Well, does it even exist on Linux? Can you run those tools, right? Do they work properly with the printer drivers that you have? So inventory all of this stuff that you have, get it ready to go. And then in terms of infrastructure, like people just, even before they know what they need, they just go out and buy a server. I usually get a phone call that says, well, we bought this hardware and we need to migrate to it. And we're like, well, why did you buy that hardware? Well, that's the hardware we need. Who says that you needed the hardware? I'll tell you who says you need the hardware. The sales guy told you that you needed the hardware, right? So he didn't sell you the hardware you needed. He sold you the hardware that made him his Mercedes payment for the year, essentially. So you want to inventory what you have, and you want to trend and gather data about the infrastructure, the hardware that you have now, because that'll help you decide what infrastructure you're going to need when you migrate to the new systems. And like I said, trend for a few weeks. At least trend over a month end, right? I mean, that's really usually most customers when they tax their systems is that whatever happens at month end or quarter end or year end or whatever it is. Make sure you gather data over that busy time to make sure that whatever new hardware you purchase or rent from Amazon, whatever, can handle that load, okay? And before you go and buy a 32-core box or something crazy like this, ask me about NUMA issues. I don't know how many times, again, we come to a customer who's having horrible performance problems, and the solution is to disable CPUs. And they're like, I just paid $1 million for those CPUs. And we're like, that's great. Take 3 of them out, right? And they're like, I'm not taking 3 of them out because I will lose my job if I take 3 of them out. And we're like, okay, we won't take them out. We'll disable them. Is that better? But literally, 4 CPUs is worse than 1, literally. So before you go jump and buying a multi-CPU box, come and talk to us about NUMA. We've just lived through this so many times. It's hard. It breaks my heart because you're like, disable expensive CPU, disable expensive. It's very, very painful. So anyways. So next thing to inventory, all the ACLs and all the firewalls and all the interconnections and what doors have you opened between what servers, and that could be both, internal and external, right? So a lot of very security conscious customers, they have firewalls and VLANs set up internally, which control who can communicate with who, and of course all of the stuff that goes to the outside world through the DMZ to whatever your business partners are. So inventory, all of that, and the IP addresses too, right? So this IP address on this server, and be careful, a lot of servers will have multiple IP addresses. So which one are you actually using for your application? Which one is using for some back-end backups or network or whatever other things that are being used by that system? So inventory, all of that too. And of course, what version of OpenEdge are you running? Are you 32-bit? Are you 64-bit? And you know what? Take the time to draw out an architecture diagram. I don't know how many times, again, I've come into a customer in a migration, and we're the first ones to actually draw an architecture diagram of their open edge environment, right? This talks to these people over here, and I have a Shopify link over there for the store, and I'm connected to Salesforce over here, and I'm getting data from EDI over here, and we've got all of it on one, all the internal servers, all the connections, all the ports, all the IP addresses, server names, everything's on one diagram, and the customer's never seen that before, right? So take some time to do that. You might have a Padawan, a junior in your team, right? That's a great exercise to give to a junior to help them familiarize themselves with your environments, all right? And this is really a good time to check your license usage. So again, a lot of times we come in too, and the license usage just doesn't make sense. And you certainly want to catch any license issues before progress comes. Who's been audited from progress, right? Not the most pleasant thing you ever did in your life. Better for you to audit yourself. Make sure your licenses are clean. This is a great time to do it. I would say the biggest mistake people make is that they install too many licenses on too many servers. So you got a 4GL dev and you install it on all 27 servers because you're just copying and using the same license keys all over again. And then you end up, when you get audited, they say, well, you've got 4GL dev installed on 27 servers, you need to purchase 27. Be careful, and I do this in Excel, right? I ask my customers for their maintenance renewal. I write out all the licenses that they're paying for. And then in Excel, I write where is it supposed to be installed. And then I check on usage and I say, okay, well, you have a 20 user enterprise license, but guess what? You're using 75 licenses. This is now the time to rectify this because you're budgeting for new servers and new this and new that. So you can throw in the extra X thousands of dollars as part of your migration project, as opposed to finishing the migration and then realizing you need another 50 grand because you're short on licenses, all right? So make sure to do that at the same time. And again, make sure you're not installing licenses on servers where they don't belong. I can tell you Progress typically doesn't care if you install the same serial number. Like if you have 4 enterprise database licenses, you can install the same serial number on 4 servers. They're not going to look at the actual license that's installed, but they will look at the products that are installed on your servers. Good? Great. And then your application code, where is it installed? How are you deploying it? Do you have a CI/CD pipeline? Is there a Jenkins set up that automatically, compiles code? Anybody Dockerized yet? Anybody using? So we got one containerized. So as you move, you guys will all be moving into that world eventually, I assume. Docker containers, everything containerized. And you'll see that all these automated workflows are going to come out. So document all those automated workflows, right, that are creating these packages of your application, whether containerized, whether procedure libraries, whatever it is you're doing, example. And then probably the most important one is identify all your business critical workflows, because Sunday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when you release the new system to the users for acceptance testing, those are the things that they need to do, right? So we say, okay, you're going to run these 47 financial reports on Friday at 5 p.m. on the old system, and you're going to run those same 47 financial reports on the new system. They better have the same values at the bottom, right? We're going to do an order on the web, and then we're going to pick it in the warehouse, and we're going to ship it, and we're going to invoice it. You're going to do all of those critical workflows during your acceptance testing. So make sure the users, they're the ones who define what those critical workflows are. All right, the database. Hey, look, I'm the database guy. I finally get to the database. How big are the databases? Are we talking 10 gigs or are we talking 100 gigs? And what's big? Because if you're on an old server with old hardware, 10 gigs is maybe a big database, right? Today, 10 gigs fits on my phone, right? So, we don't blink an eye under 500 gigs today in terms of saying that the dump and load is going to be challenging. But again, you might tell me it's 20 gigs in a type 1 storage area on 7,200 RPM disks, then my eyes will open up and go, oh, okay, this is not going to be as easy as I thought. So we know what hardware we have, we know how fast it is, we know how big the database is the structure optimal, right? Because if you have a type 1 and I'm dumping and loading to a type 2, that's going to take longer. Just the nature of the beast, you have to plan for it. Any fragmentation, RM chain issues, any corruption in your database, you don't want to dump and load for the first time and go live to find out you have corrupt indexes and the dump and load doesn't work. You want to have tested that ahead of time, all right? Anything special? Are you using lobs? Are there any rec ID fields? Who's using Pro 2? Right? So you know with Pro 2, you dump and load, you got to reseed, right? So is there anything special like that about your database? Log fields, right? You've got 150 gigabytes of PDFs stored in your database. Do we need to know anything about that? And then all these million other little things that I wrote at the bottom, right? All the SQL grids, authentication domains, sequence current values, user tables, all those other DB options, right? Did you go into, admin security, enable security administrators in the database? So all of those little things that you have to go through in your dump and load. Make sure that you inventory all of those features in your database. And again, those maybe who were there, who was at my SQL talk yesterday? Right, couple people. Like, we'll dump out all the SQL stuff and we'll find out that there's a stored procedure in there. And I'll literally ask, I'll be like, Scott, what do you use a stored procedure for? I have no idea. I was like, what's a stored procedure? I get that all the time. But you find out there's a stored procedure that someone installed 11 years ago. And if we hadn't inventoried it, it wouldn't have made it onto the new environment. And then God knows what would have happened. Nobody knows what business process would have stopped working if they hadn't dumped and loaded that stored procedure. All right. Whoa. And my favorite part is third-party tools, right? Anybody who's still got Windows front ends, like GUI? Anybody still have GUI Pro in 32? No? Really? A little bit? So we see this all the time. You've got some OCX or some DLL or some other third-party tool. Has anybody ever done a pro build, linking a C library into the Progress executable? Anybody that old? No? You're not that old.
I'm not that old. I've done it.
Yeah, so people used to do that too, right? You'd write some code in C and then link it into your executable, and then you're able to call that C function from inside your Progress code. Today, you'll just put it in a DLL and call it as an external DLL. Well, again, we see that. Imagine you wrote, and I've seen this so many times, someone wrote something in AI on AIX in C, compiled it in C on AIX, right? Some calculation, right? You're in a business that does buildings, and someone wrote a thing that calculates optimal loads and how thick the steel has to be in the building. If the building is this size, someone wrote it in C, they compiled it. 20 years later, the guy's dead, and you don't know where the source code is. But you have the DLL, it's not going to run on Linux, and you're going holy crap, I have this $1 million project, and there's a little piece of code here that means I can't migrate until I figure out where the little C code is that does that calculation, or I've got to hire an engineer to redo this code and then test it like crazy before I actually can migrate, right? So really all these third-party tools, that's really where you get hung up. Crystal Reports is another big one. Are you emailing? Are you FTPing files, right? SCPing files? Are there SSH keys that you have to deal with? EDI, right? Are your users using Telnet terminals? We see this too. So everyone Telnets into the AIX box, and then you come onto the new Linux box and Telnet's disabled, you have to use SSH. And then you realize, all of the guns in the warehouse, they don't support SSH. So now you've got to go to your security guy and say, guess what? We need to enable Telnet, even though that's against your security policy, because otherwise I have to buy 300 guns at $3,000 a piece, and that's not in my budget for this project. Okay. Does all this sound familiar to people? Have we lived this? All right, good. So this is great. Stop. This is like, here we are 20 minutes into my presentation. First time in your entire life that someone has documented like your entire open edge environment, that you actually can open a book somewhere and say, oh, this is all of my open edge environment. And really, even if you stopped here, it would be worth your investment, right? You would open your eyes to seeing everything that you have, right? So you know where you are. So let's see, where do we want to go next?